Welcome to the summer session of the Couple Money Podcast. Have you ever wondered what things would be like if you picked a different career or path? I think it's natural to imagine how things would turn out. But what if you're not just wondering once in a while, but constantly? Maybe you feel like your current path isn't where you want to go. A switch or even a break would be wonderful, but your finances are nowhere near ready to handle this transition. What do you do then? Jason Vitug is here to help. He's the author of You Only Live Once, The Roadmap to Financial Wellness and a Purposeful Life. And he shares how smart money moves can bring you closer to your dreams. I hope you enjoy. Jason's own road to financial wellness wasn't smooth. Before he could chart his path, he had to take a step back and look at where he was and where he wanted to go.
I worked in corporate America, and I followed this traditional path, right? Mm-hmm. And it landed me, fortunately, as an executive. So I was a senior VP at a credit union out in Silicon Valley. So I moved out of Jersey out to California. And I helped grow this organization, this credit union, from $65 million in asset to $110 million in 3.5 years. Yeah, so it was a tremendous growth, specifically at the time during the Great Recession, where organizations were having a hard time kind of convincing people and trusting financial institutions. One of the benefits that I did work for a credit union, so we did have a one-up on traditional banks. So with that success in the 3.5 years, I was selected as successor CEO. And so I was being groomed as the next CEO of my organization. And so, when you think of most people would be excited, it was a moment of pause for me.
His gut was telling him something, and he wondered, is
this what I want?
Besides that nagging feeling, Jason noticed some other signs in his life that made him reevaluate what he was doing.
You're talking about I was making six figures and still living paycheck to paycheck. I was saving money in my 401k. I was buying stocks, using my stock options, things like that. But I really wasn't conscious of what I wanted my life to be 5 years from that point. And that had a lot to do with, because I was dissatisfied with where my life was, my personal life, I was spending, and I was using spending as a mechanism. So I was, spending unconsciously, just trying to make myself feel better.
He decided that the best move for him was getting out of the current path he was on.
Instead of taking the successor CEO route, I resigned. It took me 6 months to leave. That's how hard it was. It wasn't one of these, hey, Jason, we're selecting you to be the successor CEO. It was a process, and after a time of self-reflection, I realized that wasn't the path that I wanted to take. I mean, yes, I think the title would have been great, to be CEO at the age of 30. I mean, that's awesome, but something just didn't feel right. But I didn't know why it didn't feel right. I love the people I worked with. I love the job and the work I was doing. So, I felt something was wrong with me. I was like, wait a minute. It's like people would die to have this position, would have the salary, would die for the environment, because the environment was very innovative. All the thoughts are coming through my mind. But it did take me 6 months, because the board of directors and the current CEO kept providing me more offers to stay.
To clear his mind and figure out his next steps, Jason went traveling.
Eventually, I found myself backpacking around the world and went through 20 countries in 12 months in 2012.
Looking from the outside, his loved ones were confused.
Here I was, career trajectory upwards. My finances was moving upwards, but I was dissatisfied, and then I leave it all. And so everyone's asking, it's like, what are you doing with your life?
Turns out Jason needed space to discover his new path, and it was based on what he was going through.
That's when I had my aha moment, because when I look at how I grew up in an inner city, which is the fourth largest city, New Jersey. I lived in 7 different houses before I graduated high school. I was really bad with money, horrible relationship. I had $40,000 of student loan and credit card debt. And I got myself out of that situation. And how did I get to the point where I could turn down a CEO position with my company and backpack around the world? And so that's when I realized it was access to information, access to a network of people, and using the right tools. And so when I got back in 2013, I wanted to empower my community, my generation, giving them the opportunity to live their dreams. And I knew that was going to be better access to financial information. And that's how I started Frugal.
With a purpose, Jason jumped into Frugal, building up a team and a community that he was proud of.
And so I was writing, blogging, and then eventually that took off from a handful of people reading my blog to hundreds to thousands. And later that year in 2013, I decided to crowdfund, and very successful, raising over $78,000 with the help of 541 people. We constantly are growing and iterating the product as our community constantly tells us what's working, what's not working, and making sure that the platform that we've created is relevant and kind of moves along as this community expands and grows.
Part of this expansion included personal growth and fulfilling some of his goals, like writing a book. And You Only Live Once, Jason gets into the process of how to build a life that you're happier with. But before delving into the how, there's a question you have to answer. Why? It's something he learned firsthand.
When I decided to leave my job, I had a why. Okay. So I had a purpose aside from paying off debt. So the why came before the how. And I think through my life, I learned how to do the how. So I knew how to pay off debt. I knew how to pay off student loans and to use the debt avalanche or debt snowball method to pay off credit card debt. I knew how to do that, but I didn't have kind of this why, this big reason why I should do it. And so for me, so when I discovered this kind of very short-term why of wanting to explore the world and start new and refreshed, it was easier for me to implement the hows, because now I was motivated and excited to follow through. And I think that's kind of one of the issues that I had. And when I talk to hundreds and thousands of people, it's the exact same thing. It's that we know how to do many of the things that we need to do. We don't necessarily have the why or that overarching reason to follow through. So we'll start, then all of a sudden we find ourselves a month or a few months later stopping.
And in the first step of this process, you have to become aware.
Important for me to stress the importance of creating and cultivating a purposeful life because that's a life of meaning. And I developed a process which I called ACT. And ACT is awareness, creating a plan, and taking control. And that's how the book is broken down. And the first stage of this process, awareness, getting an idea of where your mindset around money lies. And that's asking some of the hard truths. And you're not just stopping with just one why, you're asking multiple whys in terms of why do you spend the way you spend, why haven't you saved, or why are you saving, and why aren't you spending your money? So that's the process of awareness, is truly understanding kind of the root of where your relationship with money lies. So I think it's really important, and within the book and in my talks on the road trip, I like to stress this importance of having a vision for your life, and it seems really scary for people, and a lot of that has to do with our financial situations and our experiences. And so when we remove that aspect of it and we say, okay, well, think back as when you were a child, when you were a teenager, how did you envision your life? And let's start from that point and kind of create this new picture.
Special thanks to Jason for being a part of the show today. If you're considering a career or life change, please pick up his book. You can also see him and say hi as he's traveling across the country with his financial wellness road trip. I'll have a link up in the show notes so you can see when he's stopping near you. And if you're in Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, please come out to meet Jason. He's going to be here Tuesday, June 21st. And I'll be there along with Justin from Root of Good. Join us, get encouraged, and have some fun. It's at the Frontier at 800 Parks Office Drive. Again, all the info is in the show notes. I'd love to meet you guys in person. I hope you're enjoying this summer session of episodes. I hope you're enjoying this summer series of episodes. As I'm working on the next season, I still wanted to stay in touch. The Couple Money Podcast is made possible because of listeners like you. Every tweet, Facebook like, rating, and review gets the word out. Yes, ratings and reviews. A few clicks can be a huge help. Thank you for those who have done it. It makes me feel good to see what you have to say. You can also become a patron and support the show. For $1 or more a month, you can get behind-the-scenes access and extra bonuses. I'm so grateful for your support, whichever way you prefer. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care.